Man, welcome everybody. Welcome back to Pnoid News. How y'all doing today, man? Listen, all right. I found this article last night and it got me thinking a little bit. And I figured I'd do a video on it this morning because I was like, yo, you know what? I feel like, what I'm saying? This is something we should kind of discuss as far as things are really concerned, right? So let's talk about this. This is an article from Yahoo News. It's actually been up in like a whole bunch of different places. All right. And it's talking about a war game that was conducted in China, well, in the South Asia Sea, about China and Taiwan, and whether or not the United States' defensive posture is enough to hold off China from taking over Taiwan. So let's let's look at this war game and see exactly what's going on, and then we're gonna have a talk about it. All right. So hang on, let me get rid of this stupid video. Last fall, the U.S. Air Force simulated a conflict set more than a decade in the future that began with a Chinese biological weapon attack that swept through U.S. bases and warships in the Indo-Pacific region. Then a major Chinese military exercise was used as cover for the deployment of a massive invasion force. The simulation culminated with Chinese missile strikes raining down on U.S. bases and warships in the region and a lightning air and amphibious assault on the island of Taiwan. The highly classified war game, which has not been previously made public, took place less than a year after the coronavirus, reportedly originating in a Chinese market spread to the crew of the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier, taking one of the U.S. Navy's most significant assets out of commission. Then in September, in the midst of the war game, actual Chinese combat aircraft intentionally flew over the rarely crossed median line in Taiwan. In the Taiwan Strait in the direction of Taipei, an unprecedented 40 times to conduct simulated attacks on the island that Taiwan's premier called disturbing. Amid those provocations, China's Air Force released a video showing a bomber capable of carrying nuclear weapons carrying out a simulated attack on Andersen Air Force Base in the U.S. Pacific island of Guam. The title of the Hollywood-like propaganda video was "The God of War H-6 Bomber Goes on the Attack." All right. So, in the case, new U.S. administrations failed to get the intended message behind all that provocative military activity. 4 days after President Biden took office, a large force of Chinese bombers and fighters flew past Taiwan and launched simulated missile attacks on the USS Roosevelt carrier strike group as it was sailing international waters in the South China Sea. Little wonder that many foreign affairs and national security experts believe the global pandemic has accelerated trends that were already pushing the United States and China toward a potential confrontation as the world's leading status quo and rising power, respectively. This month, the Council on Foreign Relations released a special report, the United States, China, and Taiwan, a strategy to prevent war, which concluded that Taiwan is becoming the most dangerous flashpoint in the world for a possible war between the United States and China. In Senate testimony on Tuesday, the head of the U.S., man, listen, they are pulling out all the stops, right? Meanwhile, a leading Chinese think tank recently described tensions in the U.S.-China relations as the worst since the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989. What many Americans don't realize, years of classified Pentagon war games strongly suggest that the U.S. military would lose that war. More than a decade ago, our war games indicated that the Chinese were doing a good job of investing in military capabilities that would make our preferred model of expeditionary warfare, where we push forces forward and operate out of a relatively safe bases and sanctuaries, increasingly difficult. Air Force Lieutenant General S. Clinton Hinote, Deputy Chief of Staff for Strategy, Integration, and Requirements, told Yahoo News in an exclusive interview by 2018 the People's Liberation Army had fielded many of those forces in large number to include massive arsenals of precision-guided surface-to-air and surface-to-surface missiles, a space-based constellation of navigation and targeting satellites, and the largest navy in the world. At that point, the trend in our war games was not just that we were losing, but we were losing faster, they said. After the 2018 war game, I distinctly remember one of our gurus of wargaming standing in front of the Air Force Secretary, Chief of Staff, and telling them that we should never play this war game scenario of a Chinese attack on Taiwan again because we know what's going to happen. The definitive answer is that the U.S. military doesn't change courses, that we're going to lose fast. In that case, an American president would likely be presented with almost a fait accompli. Okay, so let's talk about this because this is important, all right? Now, I have a question. This is kind of an important question. Why? It's a really simple question, right? Like, why? Why are we worried about Taiwan? Why are we worried about dominance in the South Asian Sea? Why? I mean, it's a very basic question, right? I mean, like, if all you can come up with in your head is that, like, it's important to maintain our dominance over China, why? Again, I ask, why is that important? Why is it important that we have all these bases? I thought the entire idea of what we've been talking about for the past 15, 20 years since, this Iraq war thing kicked off is that we don't need 1,000 overseas military bases. I thought it's that, we're spending entirely too much money being the world's police. I mean, I understand you go, oh man, men fought and died for those islands. Yeah, I understand this. But that was against Japan in 1945 and 44, 43 and 42 and 41. It's 2020. Why are we still there? Because we have to what? Protect the corporate interest shipping lanes? The same people who took away our jobs. The same people who sold us up the river. The same people who pay for the news, who continually push news that we're not interested in hearing, or that end up producing effects that legitimately, take away our freedoms. The same people who want to take away your right to defend yourself. The same people who want to indoctrinate your children. The same people pushing medicines that are injected into your body that you're not interested in getting. Is that why? I feel like we should not do that. I feel like we should leave and go home. I don't care about Europe. I don't care about our consumer goods. I don't care about our supply chains. I don't care if we can't buy a cell phone for a few years until we get some factories built up in America. I don't care about semiconductors being made in another country. They could be made here, just they'd have to pay taxes here. They don't want that. They'd have to pay American workers, and they don't want that. They want to take advantage of poor people. Take advantage of ours. We're right here. There's lots of us. Take advantage of Mexico's. They're right there. And they could use the work. Colombians could use the work. Hondurans could use the work. Panamanians could use the work. You can put it in Mexico. Put it in South Texas. You could use those. Use them guys. Sure, they'd be happy to take those jobs rather than picking fruit. I mean, you got plenty of people to build it here. And we don't have to worry about protecting places that have nothing to do with me. I'm just saying why. Maybe that's a good question to ask in the end of the day. I'm kind of just asking a question. I mean, I figure, with all the bluster and bullshit in this CIA paid for article right here, maybe, just maybe, it would be better off, if we didn't continue to sell arms to individuals who would end up falling into the arms of the enemies eventually, right? I mean, because Taiwan's going to be taken over, and what they're suggesting is that we sell more guns to the Taiwanese. Do I care? Why should I care? Somebody needs to explain this to me. Go, oh, prices will rise. So what? Maybe the inflation will actually show in consumer goods. Then they're going to have a conversation about that magic money tree they've been using. Maybe we should have that conversation. Remember back in 2008 when everybody said, let the banks fail? I was one of them people too. And I'm still with it. I think Americans need exposed to responsibility and consequences for their actions. I think it's important. Since our government decided to start handing out handouts to everybody, maybe we should see what that costs us for real, rather than putting it on the backs of the rest of the world. Maybe Europe should carry their own bullshit. I mean, because, that $7 trillion a year that flows through the Pacific right there. Most of that doesn't come to America. It goes to Europe. Maybe something we should think about. Maybe they should pay for their own shit. Maybe, just maybe. It's not our responsibility. Just want to put that out there. It's Tom Peace of Pnoid News. You know the deal. Like, share, and subscribe. Become a patron. You know the deal. Later. Peace.